Welcome back to the Creative Companion podcast. Thank you so much for joining me today. I've decided I want to try my hand at drawing again today, drawing some portraiture. So I have today my charcoal pencil, some super black markers in a variety of sizes. I'm not sure which size I'm going to use yet, and a white jelly pen. I prefer the jelly pens because they give a really crisp, nice white. Sometimes it's hard to get white that will cover up any colors. And for my color today, I'm just using this jumbo pack of 72 felt markers. They're nothing special. They're not specific art markers, but just use what you have, right? If you have something that you want to work on today, now's the time to grab it as we sit down to create together. Now, there is a lot happening in our world today. A lot of really heavy things happening in the world. And even though I use this space as a place to kind of escape from it all, it's really hard to pretend, even for these few moments, that there's not a lot of heartbreak and a lot of stressful things taking place. Sometimes it can be hard to even just enjoy the things that we once enjoyed when the world is so chaotic. And we do need time to ourselves. Yes, it's important to be clued in to what's happening in the world. Yes, it's important to take these things very seriously and not to block it out all the time. But you've probably heard a lot of people talking about that joy is a form of resistance. So finding things that you enjoy, finding time to yourself is just as important as those times when you are really locked in. Now, of course, this is not a political podcast. I want this to be just an art podcast and a place for you to come and enjoy the creative process with me. That being said, if you are anything like myself and you're seeing everything that's happening in the world, chances are you have had the thought recently of what can I do with my creativity and my creative habits to better the world? Because art is a powerful, powerful thing. You don't have to be the next Michelangelo or Da Vinci or Andy Warhol or Van Gogh to make a difference in the world. I think now more than ever, art can be a really powerful force for change simply because of the platform that you can gain thanks to the internet, thanks to social media. It can be a really incredible thing if you are looking to utilize your creativity for causes that you really care about. I think that art can be a really wonderful escape. It can be a very necessary escape, but I also think art can be a weapon as well, a wonderful tool for change, because people pay attention to art sometimes even more than they realize. And art can be really indicative of where we are as a society. The Grammys were last night, and I've heard a lot of discussion about whether or not the Grammys and that culture and that art, that artistic expression is representative of where we are as a nation. And what does the music industry really have to say about our culture as a whole? If you've ever studied art history, you'll know that art has been used as a force for people's emotions and feelings about what's happening in the world for forever. Actually, a lot of fine art has been used as a way of conveying messages about things. It's one of the earliest ways to convey messages across civilizations and across different language barriers. So let's talk about that for a little bit. If you are looking for ways to use your art to make change in the world, I think that there are several avenues that you can go down that have a ton of impact. The first and probably most obvious one is to create art that has a message that you want to convey. Now, this can be extremely literal in that you can create art that has text on it. You can create art that literally says what you want the world to know. If you're a graphic designer, signs and digital art for Instagram, infographics, things like that, even just messages that people can reshare and feel this collective voice together on social media, those can have a huge, huge impact. Creating like t-shirts and things of that nature, merch that has text on it, like bags or sweatshirts. It's literally conveying the message that you want to say to the world and can feel very powerful to get your voice out there like that. You can use your art to show different ways of life, different cultures, just different points of view. I think one of my favorite things about art history is seeing how people from different cultures portrayed similar ideas, or even just how female artists and male artists differ throughout history and the things that they chose to focus on. It's so fascinating to me. Even though we live in such a connected society and we get to see other ways of life just by opening up our phones most mornings, I think it's still really apparent that there are a lot of people that miss some of that content. There are people that need to see that kind of content, or they need an avenue to look into someone else's life for a moment. Seeing a new perspective can really change and humanize a situation in a way that's really, really powerful. I think in the midst of really heavy things happening in the news seemingly every day, a lot of really important artwork comes from those big feelings that you feel in the midst of conflict, in the midst of strife. Sometimes it's just a matter of acknowledging the feelings that you are currently feeling and leaning into that in order to create really moving and dynamic work that will speak to a lot of people. Chances are you're not the only one that's feeling the feelings that you are feeling, and connecting with people and connecting with those emotions that everyone is feeling can actually help lighten the load, or at least bring awareness to things that you feel like need to have awareness and attention on them. I also think you have the opportunity to collaborate with other artists and bring a collective voice together. Artists that are caring about the same things that you're caring about, that are trying to bring attention to the same things that you're bringing attention to. Collaborations like that can bring not only a bigger audience to the work that you deem as important, it again can strengthen the voices surrounding these problems, because the more people speaking about them, the more impact and change that's going to happen. Sometimes I think as artists, we tend to get very insular. Whether you're an extrovert or an introvert, that's not really what I mean, but it's more about the fact that a lot of people do their creating just on their own. It can be really easy to not try to get outside perspective on your art when you're trying to create something original. It can also be really tempting to block out a lot of what's happening in the art world so that your work doesn't feel derivative or too similar to something that is already being done. But just like with protests or people that are getting together because of a shared cause, creating and collaborating with artists that care about the same things, or that are speaking about the same things that you're speaking about with your art, can be an incredibly, incredibly powerful thing. And especially with really heavy topics, it can make it feel not as alone. Like you're not the only person that cares about these things. And I firmly believe that that is really where our attention should be anyway. There are a lot of people that care about what's happening in the world right now, but if none of us ever spoke out about it or made art about it or talked about it on our social media or had these quotes or infographics to share around and share ideas, it would feel very isolating. It would feel very much like we're in this fight alone. I also think starting a podcast or a YouTube channel or just a social media platform that you can convey the ideas and share the messages that you want to share to the masses, I think that that's a great thing to do. Because again, the more voices that are out there talking about the things that you're passionate about and the things that you really think need more eyes on them, the better. Today I'm kind of just experimenting with these portraits. I don't really know where they're headed, but I have kind of a vague idea of what I want to do. I know that I want to use some jewel tones to color in these portraits. This is way outside of my comfort zone, so I have no idea how this is going to turn out. Maybe I will do a brighter one as well. Again, I'm just kind of winging this in a way. But that's why we show up here every day, isn't it? To experiment and see what happens. Okay, these are the colors I've chosen today. Pink and orange is obviously not a jewel tone, but I think I'm gonna do each portrait in one of these groupings. I have a purple set, a blue set, and a pink and orange set. We'll see how this goes. Now, if you love the idea of creating for a cause specifically, That can look completely different than, say, someone who has a set message that they want to get across. If you're a fine artist and you're like, I actually don't know what my message is necessarily, but I know I want to do something, that's still a great place to start. I talk a lot about the intention behind the things that we decide to do or the way that we decide to spend our time. And intention is a huge, huge part of it. I know for me, I have really been looking for ways to get involved and lend my skills specifically to something that I can see that I'm making a difference in some way. I think that there are several ways that you can get involved, even when you're not quite sure what that would look like. The first thing I would suggest is reaching out to any nonprofits that do work in an area that you feel really passionate about. See if they can use your skill set in some way. You'd be surprised. Nonprofits need volunteers. They need people showing up that care about the cause that they're fighting for. And you never know, you may get the opportunity to create banners for them or advertisements, or maybe even starting an art program for an area that could really use it. Maybe like an art therapy program or something like that. Again, you never know how your skill set could be used until you put yourself out there and just see what is needed. There are several nonprofits around where I live that offer skill workshops to teach people skills that could help them get a job. If you have a skill set that is more geared towards creating tangible items, you can look for opportunities to create items that fulfill a need of some sort. If you are really into sewing or knitting or crocheting, you could always team up with a group that needs tangible pieces for people to wear, or you could donate your pieces to a local homeless shelter. Again, you never know. I think that there are plenty of opportunities that people overlook because they're afraid that it's not going to be enough or that it's not going to make that big of a difference. But it's so easy to forget that all of these organizations need volunteers. They need people that are stepping up. And if you're sitting back feeling like, well, I don't know what I could do, of course you don't know what you could do. You haven't asked yet. You don't have to have the right answer before you even tried. Sounds familiar, right? Another opportunity that a lot of people don't even consider is donating your work to an auction or a charity fundraiser. A lot of charities and nonprofits host these types of fundraisers, and they love having artwork to put up for auction because art can be worth a lot of money and have a lot of inherent value, and it can get a lot of people in the door. So even if you feel like your artwork wouldn't necessarily fit any tangible needs, you'd be surprised what it might sell for and how that could benefit an organization that has it up for auction. Sometimes it's important to just think outside the box in how our art could be used. It's so easy to get caught up in the typical things that we see people doing to make a difference. And it's also really easy to compare your efforts to things you may be seeing on the news or on social media. Every little bit helps. Every effort is valuable. And again, you may never know how valuable it can be until you try. I'm pretty happy with how these are turning out, actually. Maybe I need to do more marker work. And honestly, my biggest piece of advice is if you don't see what you're looking for out there, create it. If you don't see the opportunity that you've been searching for, or you want to help in a way that you're just not seeing people talking about, maybe that means that there is room for you to create what you want to see. Don't be held back by what has already been done. So much of what we talk about is not being held back by what has already been done. I'm always going to encourage you to lean into your ideas because I believe that there's opportunity in all of this. I believe that there is room for everyone. And I believe that if you have an idea and a passion for something, then it's there for a reason. I think that there are opportunities for everyone. And I really and truly believe that those opportunities are limitless in a way. Whatever you put your mind to, whatever you want to see happen in the world, I say go for it. Do not be stopped by what you do or don't see already happening. The only way we push forward and make actual change in our world is by trying something new, trying something different. So I encourage you to do some soul searching. What doesn't exist currently that you would love to be a part of, that you think would make a difference in a way that's being neglected at the moment? If something came to mind for you when I said that, then there you go. Lean into that. If nothing came to mind for you, that's okay too. Like I said, reach out to organizations, see what they specifically are needing at the moment. I guarantee you, even if you don't have a specific idea or know of a way to get involved right this moment, there are people out there that can tell you how to get involved. There are going to be people that know exactly where to put you and how best to use your skill set. Sometimes it's just about connecting up with the right people that can point you in the right direction. I hope that this topic resonated with a few of you. And if it didn't, I'm sorry if this felt like a waste of your time today or just another political conversation that you didn't want to have. But if you did feel that way, I encourage you to analyze why you feel that way. Again, we're all about soul searching here, figuring out why things matter to us, looking at ourselves, looking at the world, looking at the impact we can have on the world with our art. So I feel like in a way I would be remiss to not talk about ways you can use your art for activism. At the very least, I feel like everyone has a story to tell. Whatever that story is, or however you want to tell it, is totally up to you. Again, sometimes just bringing life and humanity back to some of these issues can be very eye-opening for people that need that. Even if you don't think that you could change the world with your viewpoint or have something profound to say, sometimes it's just about sharing your unique story, sharing the things that matter to you most, and bringing that to people's attention. There's power in the stories that we tell. There's importance in the things that matter to us. Going out of your way to share your own story or the story of someone else that you think is important can have a huge impact when all is said and done. I'm just going in now with my white pen, and actually it might be time to get a new pen because this is not inking as much as I would like it to. I genuinely think that this white pen has dried up on me, so definitely time to get a new white pen, I think. Oh, there she's working a little bit. My last bit of advice, I will say, even when the world feels heavy, even when there feels like there are 1,000,001 things happening and you're not sure where you fit into that, if you have the desire to make change, to let your thoughts and feelings be heard, that is always necessary and that is always a good thing. Okay, well, even though my white pen was not hitting the spot tonight, it's definitely time for a new white pen. I think I'm going to leave these drawings there. I had a lot of fun with the markers today. So I think that's a medium I definitely want to try again. I hope you enjoyed this conversation. Even if this is not the typical conversation that you would sit down to listen to, I'm really glad that you stuck it out until the end. And I'd love to hear what you were working on today and any thoughts or questions you may have. You can always leave them in the comments. I would love to hear from you guys. As always, thank you so much for being here today and sitting down to create with me. And I will see you in the next episode. Bye.